Hi, Royal Ones. This is Miss Gigi coming at you again with another juicy episode. Let's get straight into it. Let's talk about the stay-at-home dad. That's an evil experience. That's so evil. This will backfire on you. Let me tell you something. Let's get straight into it. Oh. Do not let your boyfriend and your husband not work and stay at home with your children or the children that y'all have together. Because when you get home from work and that child starts acting up and you go to discipline that child, that dad is going to step in and block you from disciplining that kid, your own child. If that man is the stepdad, your husband, he's not the biological dad, they're going to try to stop you from disciplining that kid because he has spent so much time with that child. He feels no one can discipline him but him. He will stop you from the mother. It will feel like in his eyes you attacking that kid, your own child. That child will look at you crazy. That child will start talking to you crazy in a very disrespectful manner. Because the other parent, the dad, has brainwashed that child against you. Or he has more respect for the other parent because the other parent is staying at home with him all day and all night. So by the time he come home from school, that's dad sitting right there. And then, so he's there until you come home from work all day and all night. So this guy can intentionally or unintentionally draw a wedge between you and your child, your son or your daughter. Because he had the power to. Because he's sitting there all day. He ain't going nowhere. He ain't got nothing else to do. He ain't got nobody else to talk to but your children. So your children become like a whole therapist for him. And he'll talk to his kids. Your kids about the past, present, and the future. And your kids get a bond and develop with him. He talking to your kids all damn day. You don't know what he talking to your kids about. But he talking to your kids and now they bonding. And they talk. And if your child is under the age of 18... and you need somebody to watch him or watch her, make your man get off the couch and find a job to help you. Pay for daycare or babysitting fees. Because they say the hand that rocks the cradle is the hand that rules the world. And he's rocking your son's mind. He's massaging his mind. He's brainwashing him. He's rocking him. He's rocking his mind. Rocking your daughter's mind. Just brainwashing, rocking. So if you give someone that much power over your kid or over you, they will use it against you. And then they'll tell everybody at church and all your friends and family members and neighbors that they're a good man. They stay home and they watch your kids. They're going to wash your face with it. They're going to throw it up in your face every single time. Oh, you can't buy me this. I watch your kids all day. Oh, you can't give me no money. I watch your kids all day. That's what I do. I stay home and watch your kids. You can buy me this. You can send me here. You can do that. You can let me drive the car. He going to use that to his advantage to get what he want out of you. And, while you going to work, he will psychologically abuse you with this. He will weaponize your kids against you and literally make you feel and literally make your son or daughter hate you because you're not there with them every day. Make them feel like when they come home from school, you're not there because he'll make it seem like you're too busy when actually you're working to pay the bills. He'll make it seem like, oh, mommy doesn't love you. Mom is too busy. Literally brainwash your kid to make them look good and make you look like the monster. They are working on your child's psychology and the way they view you and the way that they respect you. This is the master manipulation. Eventually, your child will lose respect for him, will lose respect for you. Because, this man, you want to make your man work. Because eventually you will lose respect for him because he's not being the head of household. He's not being a leader. He's not being a provider. He's not making you feel safe and secure and providing a safe and stable, loving household. Things are going to get toxic real fast. Both of y'all must be respected by the children, and you cannot be the breadwinner, and it's not okay. It's never okay for you to be the breadwinner. It's never okay for the woman to be the breadwinner unless she's the single mother. But if you have a man living in your house, oh, no, 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 sweetie. You need to make that man get up off that couch and work. And that's on period. My ex, he made me feel bad about cutting my hair. Let me tell you what he did. He laughed at me. And then he told my son, he said, look at your mommy. You got more hair on your head than mommy does. And my son would actually laugh at me. My 16-year-old son, he laughed at me. My ex did not like me with short hair. In fact, he laughed at it all the time. And you know what I told him? I said, you know what? The women in my country in Cameroon, they wear short hair like this all the time. And the men love them. I am not everyone's cup of tea. And every man ain't meant to be attracted to me. So I feel just fine and I feel beautiful. And he thought that I would be afraid of losing my built-in babysitter. But I told him, I said, you know what? He tried to intimidate me by threatening, what you gonna do if I leave? Really? I would hear him on the phone because, you know, see, I ain't had no one to watch my son. And so that's what he would use against me. And so he's not Malik's biological father. And Malik's biological father hasn't been in his life for like 8 years. And he doesn't have a relationship with his dad. And so because of the wedge, he also drove a wedge in between. I believe now I'm looking back. The reason why Malik don't like his father, I think he brainwashed him against his father because I could never take him over to his dad's house. And I was like, Malik, let's go to your father's house. He would just refuse to go over there. Even though his dad is some way, but still, it's just, I'm thinking now, he did the same thing to me. Why wouldn't he do it to him? Because he wanted to be Malik's only center focus of attention. So when I divorced my ex, you know, before that, I would hear him on the phone with friends and family members and gossiping about me and bragging about what he did for me, how he stayed at home and how he's such a good dad to Malik and what things he, you know, he cooks and cleans the house and he, you know, while I'm at work. And then, you know, he asked me why I was working till 7 p.m. every night. And I told him because, you know, I'm a businesswoman. I have my own business and the bills must be paid somehow. So you don't work. You sit down on the couch all day. Therefore, you cannot dictate the hours that I'm working. So he monitors what I say to my son, and he'll go behind my back after I talk to my son and say, well, how did you feel about what she said? Or you ain't got to do that. Or he'll try to, you know, good cop, bad cop. And then he'll try to criticize me behind my back to my child. You know, and he tried to play like, you know, he was God over me and my child. That's why he said, what would you do if I leave? Because he knew I ain't had nobody here to be with Malik. He knew I ain't had nobody here with my son. So he knew I like taking my son to church with me on Wednesdays and Sundays. And my son actually rebelled against me, against going to church. Because my ex didn't like to go to church. So I asked my son, I said, do you believe in God? My son said, I guess so. I said, where you get them mannerisms from? He picked up them same mannerisms my ex would say. It was so scary. It was so scary, honey. I prayed and rebuked. I rebuked him. I rebuked Satan. I am so happy that man is finally out of my life after 15 years so I can work on building a bond back with my son and continue to display being a God-fearing woman that I am in the presence of my son so that he can start going back to church and start liking, you know, getting interested in being in church again. I mean, you know, I used to walk on eggshells around my son because my son, you know, he would have outbursts of anger when I would correct him to the point that I wanted to put my son out of the house. I actually consulted my pastor about putting my son out. I was like, this boy got to get out of my house. And what I really wanted to do was put him in the Job Corps program when he got older. I don't want to put him out on the streets like that. You know what my son told me? He said, when I turn 18, I'm going to go live with my ex in Texas. I'm going to Texas to live with. I was like, oh, really? So you just going to tell me? So I've been asking you for 6 years what you going to do with your future. And the only thing you could tell me is that you're going to get a job and work and live with my ex. That's what you're going to do. You're going to Texas. Really, little black boys in Texas, they don't treat them right. This country is very, very, honey. And my ex-husband, he's blonde hair, blue eye, white man. Okay. So I knew my ex did this to get back at me by brainwashing my child because I didn't want to remarry him after I divorced him for 6 years. And so he wanted payback ever since I broke his heart. But this guy, he wasn't doing anything or going anywhere with his life. And and I felt like, why would I be with him? With this relationship, I outgrew him. I got 2 degrees since we've been together. I have an associate's degree and I have a bachelor's degree. And, I still have my business for 12 years. And then, I have a podcast and I have, my channel. So I'm evolving and he's just staying stagnant. So it was just like, this guy, he's not really doing anything with his life. He has his GED and that's all thing he had when he came into this marriage with his GED. He didn't do nothing, go nowhere, do nothing else with his life. So I had a clothing boutique back in 2007. And so I asked him, in the past, I was like, so why don't you open up the boutique for me in the morning? And then when I come home at night, I would, take over. And he said, I don't want to do that. I'm bored. There ain't that many customers. So he would rather sit at home all day in the house instead of opening the boutique. So I could not do it because I was working at the law firm at the time. And so this guy did not support my endeavors. So I had to close down the boutique because I had heart complications. I was very, very stressed out. So opening the boutique on the weekend was, I wasn't getting the proper rest from my body. So he wouldn't even sit down on the weekends and work in the boutique. He was just bored out of his mind. And so, but then when I go to the boutique, he would follow me wherever I go. If I want to go to the grocery store, he would go to the grocery store. If I go to the shopping mall, go to the mall, buy some, he would go to the mall, buy some. But then he would just, it was really ironic. So I found out that he did this to his ex-wife. He was married before, the mother of his 2 sons, that he turned the boys against her. And eventually they moved out and lived with him for a short period of time. So I came to grips with myself to ask my son, and I said, this is a pattern. And I said, I wondered, I said, is he sexually abusing my kid? I said, did I miss something between on the way to work and church? Did I miss something? Pay attention to my child. Because my child spent so much time in his presence Monday through Sunday that I just wasn't really, I'm not the stay-at-home mom type of chick. I'm a career mom and I'm active and I like to travel and go places. I'm not a housewife. I'm not staying at home. I don't like to stay at home. And so my kid was just being stuck there in this house with this man. And so I prayed and I asked the Lord and it's for forgiveness. And then I went to my son and I said, did he ever molest you? Because I know they spent a lot of time together. And thank God I said no. And so I believed him. But I still stay in prayer, praying that the Lord will reveal to me if revealed to my son, to tell me if anything happened to him. And all them years that they was together. Because I'm just so nervous. He would never talk to his biological father. Even till today, he still doesn't have a relationship with him. And it's really, really sad. Because, he spent so much quality time with my son. His 3 kids envied my child. And they didn't like him. They despised him because he ignored them. So his daughter screamed out at him and said she wants nothing to do with him. Never again, because he didn't raise her. She was a grown woman. She was like, older. And so she said, I don't want you will never have a relationship with your grandchildren. And his 2 sons, they barely came around and to see him or pick up the calls or pick up the phone to return his calls. And he doesn't see his grandson. His 2 children have grandchildren. He's not in the lives of his grandchildren. His only focal point was my son. So he risked losing a relationship with his 2 children and his grandchildren. Because he was just so focused on hell bent on putting me through the hell that he was putting me through. That he lost out on his biological son's lives and lost out on growing up and raising his grandchildren. And causing division amongst the children. And then when I'm at work, when I leave the house to go to work, he would call me often throughout the day. to the point that it got so annoying. I'm like, this guy, like, he didn't have no hobbies or anything. Like, I was his only focus, and my son was his only focus. This is my first husband. This is crazy. The best thing I could have done was I went on a 3-day dry fast. That weekend fast, I prayed that 7-hourly cycle of prayer to break that stronghold and that bondage off of me and my son, until he felt like it was impossible for him to be in my life. We had so much contention in our marriage that he had to leave. I prayed for him to exit my life. This man, he didn't have no real source of income. So where was he gonna go? He was stuck with me. He ain't have nothing. The next best thing to do was to pray and keep that thing in prayer with God, so that man could get out of my life, because he was like a anchor. Like, he was like a bolt and chain tied to me. And this man would not leave because he was dependent on me to provide a roof over his head and food. He provided on me for his resources. It was like he was using me. And he's like, where am I going to go? And he made me feel bad for that. So he had to move out. I prayed for him to exit my life, and now I'm healed, and I'm telling you my story so you do not have to repeat this mistake. Hey, I mean, he used to call my son all the time after he moved out. He would keep in touch with my son, sending him money, $100 a month. He would send him gifts, because he was his stepfather. But honey, let me tell you something. It felt funny. It felt funny. Like, this man just will not let go. It's hard. It was hard. It was hard. We were married for 6 years, but I was knowing him for 15 years, and he still had that connection and that still had bond with my son. I felt like he was putting so much stress onto me. It felt like he envied my success. Like, he punished me for being successful. He humiliated me in front of friends and family and church people at church, because I'm successful. I get up and go to work, and so he's there with the kid. So he punished me for that. I felt like I was being punished, and I felt bad. I felt bad. I felt really, really tired. I felt exhausted because I was just working all day, every day. And then when I come home, I would cook and clean the house. And then, like I said, I'm a very educated woman, so I was going to school at night part-time. So he punished me for that. I'm being an intelligent businesswoman. And he was just a GED. He only had that's a GED was his only education. But because he was, I overlooked that. But because he was willing to date me, and he was willing to accept me and my son, and the fact that he married me, our first date was with my son. I took my son to dinner and we went to the movies. That was our first date. I didn't have a babysitter, and Malik's father refused to watch him. Malik was 2 years old, so I had to bring my 2-year-old on a date. How embarrassing is that? You can't even have that time, the adult time, that I had to bring my kid everywhere. And so that was the worst decision of my life, was the day I met him and the day I decided to marry him. That was the biggest mistake of my life, because this is the way it's how it's toxic. He's a toxic masculine. And now I have my son, the way that he turned out to be. He is, coincident. He is consistently rebellious towards me. And I keep my child in prayer. I know he doesn't know any better. He's still young, he's 16 years old. He's 17 years old. But, he was severely brainwashed. So bad to the point that, my son withheld telling me what he wanted to do with his life from middle school to high school. He would not talk to me about his future, his goals. He would only communicate with my ex. And he felt like he didn't have to talk to me. He would slam the door in my face. And he doesn't have any aspirations for college or a trade. He just want to get a job working minimum wage, just like John, just like my ex did. My ex just went from school. In fact, he didn't even go to school. He dropped out of high school, went back, got his GED, and he does these little flagging jobs. That was his thing. He just goes to the labor ready and get a job, day labor and get a job, and that is minimum wage, and that's a tough life. He's setting my son up to live the hard life and live that hard path just like he did growing up. I feel sorry for my son because he hasn't had a relationship with seeing his biological father in like 8 years. And I'm going through this with my kid. And Malik doesn't have to have that lifestyle. He doesn't have to go through that. He doesn't have to live that type of life. He has the opportunity to go to Job Corps out of high school to live a life a little bit better and get a top paying career, a trade or career. If you don't have to go to college to be successful, but you can't stay home all day and play video games, that's not acceptable. That's not having a prosperous future outlook for your future. And this man wants you to follow in his footsteps after school, get a job, working minimum wage. What kind of future is that? That's not what I want for you. I want you to go get a trade. If you're not gonna go to college, get a trade and be successful. But don't go to some day labor. Get $100 a day. You ain't got to start that low. You ain't got to start from the bottom. You could start, somewhere in the middle, which is Job Corps. That's be a little bit better than day labor. And so, like I said, he hasn't had a relationship with his dad. So I'm a single mom raising a boy. That's tough. And now he's entering adulthood. He'll be 18 on the 17th of September. And we have this complicated relationship as mother and son with zero input from his real father. And that's why a lot of women say black men ain't no good because of, situations like this. I'm not going to give up hope. But, I'm really enjoying my single season right now. And it's just that I'm trying to focus on building a better relationship so that I can put my kid on a better path, keep my kid on a better path, on the right path. Now that we got that toxic crap out of our house, that's my new focus, is just making sure that my son gets the Job Corps, because I don't think college is in his future, because he's brainwashed him so bad he probably don't even know what he want to do with his life at this point, because he just got him so twisted and confused. It's real sad. I don't know if I'll ever, date or get married again, but I'm optimistic about black love, and I know that there's a good man out there for me, but I'm just really focused on healing and learning the lessons I need to learn so I can pass this wisdom on to you. And that was the whole purpose of this message. Do not let a man do the whole stay-at-home dad thing. That can get real toxic real fast, and you're going to resent him, and you and your children are going to need time to heal. Everybody's going to be in therapy by the time that relationship ends. By the time you either get a divorce or you put that man out your house, by the time it ends, everybody going to need therapy. You're going to be going through what I'm going through. I hope and pray you avoid this. This is very painful. Like I said, my son had me walking on eggshells around this house at one point, because he had outbursts of anger when I tried to correct him. You can't play video games to a certain time of night. You have to shut it down. You can't sit there and play all day like that. That's going to mess up your eyes. That's just, that's not healthy for you. All that, trying to talk to him. He punched the wall. Thank God it wasn't me. Slammed doors in my face because I tried to correct him. He didn't have respect for me. He didn't want to listen to me. He didn't want me to correct him. If you went through this experience, meet me in the comment section, Royal Ones. Thank you so much for listening to this message. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe. Love, hugs, and kisses. Bye.